give you a bunch of credits, do this migration. It'll take you like a year. It'll be
Yeah.
good, and it'll be all be covered by us. 2 years later, they've blown through all the credits. The migration is not even close to done, and everyone's stressed out and be like, "Why did we do this in the first place?" And the data leader who decided to migrate is probably gone. So, like, that's the realism of what happened. So before going and doing something like that, factor in all those costs and be realistic about it because everyone loves to give best case scenario, this won't happen to us, or like the bad things won't happen to us type mentality. But in reality, it does happen to
It
every
does.
organization out there. So I think those are the kind of things to think about and to be strategic about before going and making this huge organizational change or transformation.
I think you brought up a very good point about this agile, right? Everybody wants to go into agile, and they fairly think that last time if a centralized team were giving up 6 months to 9 months or a year. In fact, in data warehousing world, we used to implement 2 years projects in waterfall, right? So let's be okay. Let's be very optimistic. Let's say a centralized team used to give us 6 to 9 months a project. Now in Agile, we can deploy changes or small data products or dashboard within maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Hey, it's a big win for us. But there are other side of the coin. The more you are making small products, the more small data models you are creating. And the more agile you are going, you are running away from the documentation and you
Yeah.
are running away from the run and maintenance. And when these small data product comes, normally in data world, we don't have an expiry date of a product. People are not used to of expiring a data solution. But I think once we go towards decentralized slash federated and a data product ecosystem, we have to be very careful that there has to be a end date or expiry date of a data product. In if we are creating an agile mode, I'm not saying just simply expire it. There has to be expiry date of the revalidation of the product because today you have a use case and you feel, hey, this use case will give me this kind of ROI in next, let's say, 1.5 years. So you need to make sure that after 1.5 years, you reevaluate the existence of the full product. Otherwise, what happens? Gartner says 75% projects or data solution sits on shelf and 90% projects of AI are failure. That is, I think the shelf are because you implemented a super good product. It was giving a high value, best ROI, and you ran it for 1.5 years. Then everybody forgot. It keeps running as you have generated such a good value. Nobody tried to decom it. So, what do you think about expiry of the data product in decentralized approach or federated approach?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. It's that maintenance thing and making sure it's continued and relevant and stuff. And I think this is where the growth of data product owners and managers has come from, right? It's the need to have someone who's responsible for that product, responsible for its maintenance, making sure that it's still relevant and delivering the right needs and the right builds because teams move on, right? To your point, agile, like they're like, okay, we're done with this, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But you still need someone to stick around and make sure that it's working the way it's supposed to be, it's working and delivering the goals that it's driving on. And it's kind of like that. It's the same as like a project manager in an organization, which is in every organization. After a project finishes, there's someone who's probably hired or set up to own that project or whatever that became. So why not the same thing for data? And I think having that perspective is one reason why data products are huge now and they're growing in terms of a role in data product management ownership. And you need to have that business perspective too. It's very much not a technical role. It's very much a look. I own something that delivers value. How can I make sure that continues to deliver value in the future and plan for it to get updated or to get refreshed to keep delivering value. So I think that kind of mentality is super relevant when it comes to building data products, and especially in a decentralized environment where your data product owners and managers might not be. within the data team. They might sit in the finance team or the marketing team and such.
Yeah. So actually, you have brought up another point which I want to thanks for raising it. I've been advocating this for a long time about data product owners because till now, uh, the centralized approach, it was a big enterprise data warehouse. CDO or CTO or CIO was the owner, and whole company was using it. So there was a product owner, but there was no product owner because everybody was using it, right? Nobody dares to decom it. Now, when you come towards small data products, the importance of data product owner become lethal actually. Because I feel people normally says you can also comment on it that business has to be product owner. Fair. Business owner has to be business has to be product owner. But I feel this data practice management team, this becomes very key because I feel there has to be a technical product owner as well. And when I say technical product owner, which I mean is, for example, you are from sales, you ask for a product because product had a value for you in that given point in time. Now you are implementing a solution for $1 million, let's say, and you're generating, let's say, $50 million. For you, it's a big success. For organization, it's a big success. But the thing is, when you implemented, the pricing of infrastructure, let's say, was here. Pricing of PS was here. But after 6 months or 1 year, as you gave an example of a vendor, which can't repeat it because I'm working with them. So suddenly it goes here.
Yeah.
Now the planned ROI, which was their business, will not, they will only see that what benefit I'm getting. They will not see the cost. So this data practice management, technical product owners. So every product can have a one business owner for me, but many products can have one team can manage many products from technical angles. Monthly reporting, how much you are consuming. Monthly reporting, what is the ROI generated. Monthly reporting, how many resources ramp up. All this reporting need to be done by this technical product owner to all the business product owners and of course to the board as well. So what do you think about this, my term, which I coined it like technical product owners? What do you think about is it really needed or I'm just throwing in the ocean?
No, no, I like it. I like it. I think it is. I think it is needed. I think to my point about the data product owner being more a business role,
Yeah,
there is, but that data product owner probably doesn't have the knowledge of Python
yeah, underneath
or
framework, yeah.
or back-end infrastructure and compute power that to understand what the product is doing on the back end behind the label, right? And
Hmm.
that person needs to consult with those people, being like, oh, this isn't working right now. What do I do? So there is that element of look, you'll need the technical expertise as well. I'm like, this is, I think, up for debate. Like I don't have a perfect solution for it, but like there might be a data products team where you have some data product managers and owners who own the suite of data products within the organization, whether they're customer facing or internal facing. And then there's a number of kind of technical owners as well who sit there to support those data products and to make sure that they are maintained in the right way. And they can probably sit within that data product team and feed back to the technical centralized team if you're in that realm. And they don't need to be federated as much because they're more on the technical realms that they execute against what's needed from the data product owners. Um, but those that kind of support is kind of it's similar to like having a software dev team. Every software dev team has supporting software devs, right? And software engineers. So like why shouldn't so if a product goes down, then those people are there to fix it. Why shouldn't data be the exact same thing,
And
right?
every 3 to 6 months, cheaper and better technology is coming. Who knows? Because data product is a logical name, it's not a technical name. Your product remains same, technology changes. Business
Yeah.
don't know what is the better and cheaper technology in market. Suddenly DeepSeek comes in. A lot of customers are replacing OpenAI with DeepSeek, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like and a lot of companies just go off and do that without thinking about the technical requirements to do it or what that will break in the other things. Because if you change from like your OpenAI to DeepSeek, for example, it will probably break a lot of things in the long run. And those things have to be rebuilt. So you need that technical person to be like, no, whoa, hold on. If you do this, it's gonna create a whole lot of problems. So you need those people in the room, to your point,
Because
to
vendors and product owner on product, let me rephrase. Vendors and product companies normally go and talk to salespeople. They don't talk to these people.
yeah,
They paint a
exactly.
big picture to the sales, and salespeople come and say, "Hey, you have to implement DeepSeek because it's 10 folds cheaper." They do not know the back end. So I'm not against DeepSeek, just for the
No, no, no. But exactly. I mean, it's what we spoke about beforehand with like migration or a big data change or something like that. It's you have to think about the whole picture, right? It's not just one element. And with the data product, and this is one reason why I think like, well, again, why I'm writing about the data ecosystem, but why it's so important is people often think about like machine learning and they think about like analytics, um, and they think of it in a vacuum. And realistically, you make a change to your sales forecasting model that we mentioned before, and it's going to have a lot of other implications down the line. Or if you opt for DeepSeek rather than OpenAI, that will have a lot of implications for things like data governance or
yeah.
privacy and security, right? Like you don't know they might release a model, but you don't know what your data that you upload to do it, what they do with that or what happens to that. And then you can be in a huge problem. It could be a huge problem a year down the road when you're getting fined by the government because you released sensitive information.
Right.
Um,
So see, ChatGPT, see, at the back end, ChatGPT can also do this kind of shit, right? But the thing is, as technical owners, you are aware this technology is coming from US. This technology is coming from an area which is banned. Even this is better if you implement it. There might be some bans in future, which will impact the ROI in the product life cycle. So this team become that important in my point of view. By the way, we have a time check of 15 minutes. So we will. So actually, this discussion is more towards data strategy, and I'm loving it actually. Tell me about,
well,
yeah, yeah,
I was just gonna say, I'll answer your question, but that's the thing. Is like people don't realize it that everything comes back to data strategy in some way or another, and that's why I said it has tentacles, right? Like even when you're building a product, it you need to think of it strategically. And you don't need a full-fledged data strategy. You just need to take a step back and think about it strategically, and then you're way more equipped to actually implement it, to actually build it in the right way. So yeah, that's my little
yeah. So
tidbit.
as I always say, right, that none of a single architecture can fit every organization. Even though people say Medallion architecture, let's talk about Medallion. I'm not going against Medallion. What I'm saying is Medallion is just layers. How you implement is architecture is not about just having a bronze, silver, gold, or traditionally raw process and transform layer. It's not about that. It's about technologies as well. It's about how data ownership is sitting over there, how data recovery will, cost recovery will happen. If an organization is an SME organization, as I mentioned the earlier of my podcast, this podcast, that if the recovery is coming from the CEO or a board, and as a SME, that everything comes from one pocket, goes into one pocket, then your underlying segregation of, I would say, infrastructure might be different. But
Yeah,
if there is an organization where there big organization have different LOBs, different entities underneath, its infrastructure will differ. Although bronze, silver, gold remain same, but underneath the whole ecosystem changes. So
yeah.
not so every organization, as you also highlighted earlier of your this discussion, that every organization need a different kind of strategy, not a single strategy.
Yeah, and I think the build I have on that too is a lot of organizations they like I love architecture right now, by the way. It's a
Same
recent
here.
fascination of mine because it really does blend the high level strategic stuff with the lower level detailed stuff.
Mm.
And the thing I find that pretty much every organization I work with is they are very stuck in the lower level detailed stuff because it's what's it right in front of them. It's short term fixing. It's that's how companies work, especially when they cut resources, right? And so they're worried about kind of the physical data layer, the relationships between them, all that kind of stuff, and the technologies within there. But they don't go back to that conceptual data model or that kind of what is it we're trying to do with data that enables our business processes, that enables our business strategy. And I think going back to it, like the to identify what the business process is like, okay, if we're a shoe company, we're selling shoes via online and retail, this is the data we need to support against our sales process and our manufacturing process. Mapping that out, it shouldn't be that hard and should be done at the outset. And then that, to your point, informs all the things under it. Right. And that's the approach that they should take, a lot of organizations, but they usually start with the lower level details and go bottom up. Whereas I
Yeah,
think they should do top down in that manner. Then the medallion architecture, that's kind of an intermediary layer, right? It's somewhat conceptual, but it's also a bit more detailed where you can kind of get into the fundamentals of how things are structured and organized. And then that allows you to structure and organize it in a better way. And it doesn't work as well when you go from the bottom to the top. Um, but yeah, I love data architecture for that reason. Because if you do it well,
yeah,
if you do it
actually,
well, you're
yeah.
making life easier for everyone around you.
Yeah, and nobody can live without data and data architecture. Actually, every organization need it, everyone need it. But actually, the point you have brought it up, right? That people are normally focused on the lower piece, which is architectural onwards, but not the upper piece. I think that is why a debate is happening nowadays on my LinkedIn as well on CDOs, like previous era of CDOs and current era of CDOs. Previous era of CDOs were more on building a data warehouse bottom to up, data quality need to be there, metadata need to be there. All these are important, no doubt about it, but it has to start from top.
Yeah,
CDOs need to look into business objective and which people do it, but there are a lot of turnover because whoever look into business, they are far away from technology.
yeah,
Whoever near to the technology, they are far away from the business, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so people has to come from bottom to up who have the background. That's what my say is. In future, it has to happen. People from data background has to come and take up the CD or CA roles so they can talk to business and build a very comfortable framework underneath. Because as you mentioned in Agile, in a small data model, if you do not have a vision, if you don't have a strategy, you end up creating a swamp of data products and nobody knows what will happen.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
If
And yeah, it goes back to the beginning of our conversation as well, where it's centralized and decentralized kind of
yeah.
organizational structure. And I think this goes back to the organizational structure and the operating model. And what I kind of recommend to organizations is, I mean, as you start out, you only start with a few roles, but as you grow bigger, you get roles in quite a different, many of ways. But to have those subject matter experts within the centralized team, um, that can then lend their expertise as needed to these situations is crucial. For example, a data architect or an enterprise architect, if you're dealing with more of the technology from an enterprise level, like them being a kind of know-it-all expert that can provide that information when needed is crucial. And then if there is more need for it, then they can set up a team under them to help do that more at scale. And same thing with data governance or data security and privacy. And you'll see fully functioning and mature data teams have that. They've got teams across the data ecosystem in all those different categories. And
Hmm.
what I've seen I've seen a couple organizations do this really well. I was blown away by how they did it. It was really, really cool. But like they've got these people and they can lean in when necessary. They're part of a leadership team, but they get called in to, for example, the, if they're going through they're deciding on a new ERP platform. That's very operational and stuff like that, right? But data governance needs to be involved because you want to use that data and how do you manage it in the right way or data privacy because that you need to consider those things. So you bring those people in ad hoc just to make sure that when you're thinking about these things and these huge initiatives, you have the right expertise to help guide the way. And we kind of veered from the architecture perspective, but that's kind of how I see the architecture role. Because like a lot of companies are just like, no, no, our engineers can build that architecture or schema, but they're not experts in it. So they don't do it from a strategic perspective. They do it from a database lower level perspective.
So again, we have a time check, but in the closing, the thing which you are mentioning, I have seen solutions where even when number of rows are adding for particular product, the data modeler end up creating for every product, end up creating columns. So I do see because they let an data engineer create data model. This is how he created. So columns coming into the Excel, end up adding a column into the table, right? Can you believe that? He did not pivot
Yeah.
it. So again, thank you, Dylan. I think we have a time check. You also have a meeting in 5 odd minutes. And I'm very much particular about the time because I also have talked about meetings. So thanks again. It was pleasure. I think this was our first session. It should not be our last session. And we should meet again in maybe a quarter or 2 quarters. And things are moving so fast. There will be a topic here and there which we can discuss. Pleasure talking to you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mustafa. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed our chat. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Cheers. Take care.